Welcome back to the Evolving Martial Artist. I think this is number 3. I
This
am
is
your
number 3.
co-host, Matt Jardine, and that dude interrupting me
Sorry.
was Greg from Conversation
It's
Credit,
me.
Greg Lynham, the
Yes.
other co-host. Morning, man.
The other co-host. I'm good.
You're right. Let's we'll give everyone a quick rundown if they haven't listened to the other sessions. The purpose of this podcast, The Evolving Martial Artist, is to look at the ways we're evolving as martial artists. Funnily enough, this kind of says what it does in the title, but how our old traditional karate ways of changing, or martial arts ways of changing, have changed as we've moved on. I think we've already looked at kata and kumite, haven't we?
We did kata, yeah. Did we do kumite? What was the other one?
Not sure. We did something
really good knowledge from the hosts of this.
Yeah, we didn't know what we recorded. But today we're going to talk about Kihon.
Yes.
For those who don't know, so we're using kind of karate terminology, but this is for all you martial artists out there. Kihon is shape making. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You drill something in the air without a partner, and it's a real foundation of the traditional arts. And I would argue, let's see who I can alienate. I would argue it's a bleeding waste of time on the. So starting from that premise, Greg.
Yes.
Kihon, let's go. How has it changed for you? Shape making, up and down, rolling up and down, shape, upper block, middle punch, blah, blah. We have it in Taekwondo and karate, whatever.
Yeah.
How has that changed for you? Do you use it? Is there any point in it? Should we just sling it out the window? Discuss.
Discuss. Do we use it? Sometimes, but not in the way that we used to use it.
No. I mean, I do remember I grew up as I'm sure you did, on a diet of moving up and down the mat. Middle punch, oiski, reverse punch, punching. Like, and even at that age, when you're young and you're kind of following, even something in you says, I think I've got this shape. No, it's about muscle memory. No, but I think my muscles memorized it a while ago, about 4 years ago.
I memorized it 3 belts ago. Thanks.
So why is it still in? Because I think it's still insisted on, right? Quite a lot.
To be honest, when I first started designing the syllabus, like for me, this is before I met Joe and we started doing our own syllabus. I kept Kihon in because I was so reluctant to get rid of it, because I was like, well, that's expected, isn't it? Kihon that's just what you do. And then when I met Joe had just trained with Peter Constantine and was talking about Kihon, and Peter was like, no, why you don't need it. Why would you walk up and down in a line when you can hit stuff, spar, etc., do partner work? So that kind of changed our view on it. So yeah, I use a little bit of it occasionally if needed. So if I see something in a live drill, or if I see something in a pad drill that I'm not happy with, then I'll say, right, let's take everything away. Let's strip it down so it's just you in the air, and we'll just work on form for about 5 minutes, not a whole class.
So very much a teaching aid.
100%. Yeah.
Very much a one part of a one tool in a kit of tools as a teaching aid. But let's just to kind of pay some degree of respect and homage to the land where it came from. So Kihon is very much a kind of a Far Eastern thing. You'll see it in Taekwondo, kind of Korean based, and Hapkido, and of course karate. So I'm going to defend it slightly because there is some cultural context which is misunderstood as it crossed the water, right? That bearing in mind, there are a number of issues I believe that Kihon came about. One is space.
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of the places are space. In certainly Japan, the dojos are little. They're not big academies, and a lot of them are narrow. It's really odd. I don't know why things are built narrow. So the linear stuff and turning makes sense. You can often only go in one direction. Okay, so we've got a space thing. Now we're looking at cultural context, because then you just would say, oh, well, are the Japanese, are the founders of our arts then so stupid that actually they can't work out? It's just a teacher. Not at all. Not at all. The Japanese are smart fighters, but this is where the cultural context matters. They're not suggesting, a lot of them, that the reason we're going up and down is just muscle memory. There's a huge degree in Japanese culture of I'll use another example. Kemi Lucas, my calligraphy teacher, that suggests that I'm doing calligraphy all the time. No, the calligraphy that I've done, she has been my teacher. Let's do it like that. She's wonderful, Japanese calligraphy master. And she told me a story once when we went to her house for a workshop of, it really is Mr. Miyagi-esque. She would do some calligraphy. Her teacher, a master, would go, "No, rubbish, throw it up," right? And she would do that again and again and again until she was in tears. And at one point, she almost had a nervous break. Whole system crashed, right? Like just almost have a nervous breakdown. Then she got it. Now, that degree of committing to the mundane is a different beast, right? That we don't get that
100%.
We do not get that your teacher has picked you up, thrown you against the wall of boredom and mundanity until your ego breaks and all that is left is your soul shining. That is, for me, I think that is beautiful. But we don't have that degree of handing ourselves to our guru, essentially. We don't have that. No. It's very much an Asian thing. And in fact, the West completely go, no, don't hand yourself over to the guru. They're just trying to take your money. It's a different beast altogether. Yeah. It takes levels of faith and following that I don't think Westerners can comprehend. So in that regard, Kihon is that. It's not muscle memory. We're going up and down until I smash the ego out of you. Why? Because there's nothing else to keep you entertained. Now, when that got brought over to the West, that bit got lost, right? Like the tea ceremony. The tea ceremony is the same thing. Well, most of us would be like, well, why bother taking 20 minutes to make a cup of tea when I can pop a tea bag in the pot and I've done it in 3 minutes? It misses the point. Yeah. So it being I think traditionally it was more of a spiritual aid than a martial arts teaching aid. That was just to defend that a little bit.
No, I think you're right. And I think that's probably true for a lot of the stuff that we diss about traditional arts as Westerners, because we just don't get it. No. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're not going to get it because we're just not. And in today's world as well, you can't have that kind of thing over here, because people will just go, I'm bored of this, I'll go find another school, because there's so many. It's not like back in the day in Japan or wherever, where that was it, that's all you had.
But there are also different reasons for training, right? I mean, a lot of when you look at cultural context, like I've explained, I think you suggest then you're training. I don't think this is a far stretch to describe. You're training for enlightenment. You're training for some sort of spiritual breakthrough. That's not happening in in the mall when you go to your average karate place. What are you here for? Enlightenment. Your mum just wants you to stop getting your ass kicked. And so they're not even the same thing. But that, for me, if I'm honest, is why I got into martial arts. I love that kind of spiritual evolution thing. I am all about that. Whether or not I've achieved it in any shape or fashion, I think many people would suggest that hasn't happened. But that, for me, has always been the great passion. And I completely understand and respect that is so far from people's radars that they're like, that's pointless. But that cannot be denied when we're understanding kata, Kihon, and then later kumite.
Yeah. So then let me ask you this. Do you think there's still a place for that in today's world?
So we're talking syllabus. In my own syllabus, I have a day. So our grading goes over 2, 3, sometimes 4 days, right? We have a course and then we're grading. And on one of the days, I have a Kihon and kata day. And they are literally kill them with that. But it's with the throwing your calligrapher to the wall idea. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not checking their skills then.
No, I'm trying to break them.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So yes, I do. If that's your view and if that's your understanding, if that's what you've embraced, then I do think it has a place. But if you don't have that, throw your calligrapher to the wall mindset, then there's literally there is no point in that. But for me personally, yes, because I do have that kind of, break the ego type bent and let the soul shine through. I do like that.
But see, that makes sense because you've got a purpose for it that's not, like you said, it's not testing your skills. It's
because it's not an
mental thing
efficient
more than
way to
anything.
test skills.
Oh God, no. No,
But
absolutely
yes,
not.
if you're that style of coach, trainer, sensei, whatever they're called, then I think it can have a place. If that isn't your bent at all, then no, don't bother. Don't bother.
Yeah, no. I think if we had an adults class, maybe that would be something we could look at. But we've got so many kids, I don't think
No.
we would do it.
Yeah.
I like it though. I like the idea of.
I do like. I've always been interested in that. Yeah, but it's such a different, and it's only when you've spent a little bit of time, kind of certainly from the Middle East, a little bit like it actually. To the Middle East have it more around their family, the full commitment to the elders, and to the Far East. It's only when you've experienced that you go, oh wait, yeah, I don't get that. I didn't really understand. You have to walk a little bit around that world to just to get an inkling of it. And it's very difficult to explain in words. When you feel it and you see it, like, oh, okay, this is a different thing. As you know, from if we're talking karate do, that whole do means path or way, but that is it. That is essentially throw your calligrapher at the wall till they break, see the soul shine through. But you can't explain that to someone who hasn't felt that or is not interested in that, and that's fine. You don't have to get into martial arts as a path to enlightenment. That's absolutely fine. I just like that idea. Hasn't worked for me yet, but I like that idea.
And I like it. I've never thought of it that way, and I do like that. And it does make me think, actually, like a lot of the karate that came over to us strictly from mainland Japan, I don't think was ever meant for combat or anything. I think it was way more for the mental side of things than it ever was for the physical side.
I think that was the plan. I think that was probably the cultural export wasn't the fighting, it was the do. But
100%.
Some things can't cross the waters, and they didn't. They got stripped. Everyone would like, and then you see all the changes. You see all the different adjustments, because I've been fortunate enough, as you know, I'm living in the Middle East, which is there are some places that are so foreign that we could go as Brits across to France, and on the whole, it's the same experience, right?
Yeah.
The language is a bit different. The baguettes are cooked a bit better, but on the whole, but it's the same experience pretty much. Anyway, Europe towards Poland, then we're changing a little bit, but pretty much. But some places are really very, very kind of, wow, that's different. And the Middle East is one of them. And it's only then you realize actually some cultures won't ever fully blend. That isn't to suggest we'll always be divided or against each other, but very different in understanding. And that's controlled by location as well, and heat and all those sort of things. And I do wonder how much of the traditional arts could ever have stuck properly in a Western culture from the Do point of view, from the Enlightenment point of view.
Yeah. We just don't have that. We like things quick and easy. We don't like the work of it.
And we're taught to challenge. We're subservience.
100%. Yeah.
Subservience and obedience in the West is a weakness. In the East, in the Middle East, it's a strength. Here's a classic example. I picked up a new printer yesterday, right? And I had this amazing lad from Kerala, which is southern India, carrying my printer out. And I'm like, seriously, man, I can carry my own printer. No, sorry. And the thing I found with Indians is that, and we're talking now the start of where this kind of handing yourself over, subservience. There's never a complaint. Like in England, you'd be like, people will be, oh, I'm not carrying your printer. Carry it yourself, you lazy.
That's 100% true. Yeah.
Carry yourself, you lazy.
Yeah.
And he wasn't after anything, and he wasn't trying to get anything. He wasn't groveling. He was happy to serve, and he is not one example. He is one of almost everyone I meet here from an Indian point of view. And it's not a weakness. Like in the West, we go, that's a weakness. You need to sort yourself out, mate. Get out of that Carrefour, that supermarket, and get yourself a better job carrying some guy's printer. No, it's the ultimate service, to be able to serve someone without any need for you. I would love to be half that strong. I am way too much of a dickhead with a big ego to be that subservient. But I'd love to be that content and happy serving. Isn't it a beautiful quality?
Yeah.
And it's not a weakness at all. Whereas in the West, it's viewed very much as a weakness. You've done
Yeah,
nothing
you'd
with
never
your
get
life.
that
Where
here.
did you get to? You carried a white guy's printer. But it's and that's what I mean about some cultures. When you step into, you go, wow, they are night and day different.
Mm. Yeah, I think that the cultural thing is something we don't think about enough.
No,
in terms of martial arts, it's so different. Yeah, even that's such a good example. You'd never get that here.
no, not carrying your printer.
Yeah, if you ask, if it was like, do you mind just carrying this because I've hurt my back?
Yeah, yeah,
you'd get an eye roll and a
yeah.
all right,
yeah.
okay.
And it's about, and you're right. Cultural context gets forgotten from a lot of things that we import, and so much is lost from that.
Mm.
Now, saying that though, we have imported it. We have stripped it of its kind of religious self-growth, spiritual aspects. Fine. Let's assume that's happened. If we ever get it, whatever, that's up to each person. But let's now look at it as a tool, right? One of many tools.
Mm-hmm.
How do you still, as an athlete, and how do you use that tool? I mean, you mentioned it briefly, but any other examples?
Yeah. So the other day, what were we doing? We were working the warm up. We had 3 stations. We had 2 bags, and I was the 3rd station holding mitts for people. So different things on different stations.
Mm-hmm.
And I was holding mitts for people, and every single person I was going, their hooks are haymakers. I don't know what's happened here. Like they're big, wide, swingy hooks instead of a nice, tight little hook. I was like, right, get off the bags, get your gloves off, get the pads down. This is what we're going to do. And we spent 10 minutes, maybe, just working on the mechanics of the hook with no impact, no one trying to punch you in the face, just in a line, just working the mechanics of the hook, keeping it
So you
short.
sort of dial down the obstacles to improvement, right?
100%.
No pressure at all.
Yeah. And then once I was like, okay, yeah, that looks better. Let's go back on the bags, back on the pads, and see how much it's improved. Yeah. And it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
But we didn't spend an hour doing that.
No.
Which is the issue, I think.
I think that's that's how I use Kihon, and I have nothing to add to that. I think that's exactly how I use it. That's why I think it's really useful. You dial down the obstacles to improvement, which is often nerves, right? When you're fighting, we're just less antsy. So when you just dial it right down, you take away your opponent, just the shape, cool, got it. And I find myself doing that in every area of my life. I do it with my yoga, my stretching. I do it with my so obviously at the moment I'm doing quite a lot of BJJ, and my armbar defense is shocking.
And remember that next time you're over here.
Don't know
like, right,
why.
go for the arm.
I mean, ain't now because I've been using my Kihon.
Oh, there you go.
I don't know why, but I just for some reason when it goes toward, maybe it's my tennis arms, right? Maybe I'm kind of subliminally overly protective of my dainty arms, but sometime I forget to move. It's almost like an inevitability. Anyway, so my point is sometimes you just need to create drills that you can do on your own, which you put yourself in the extension and move. You haven't got some idiot over yanking, because that can happen as well. And you can just get used to that until it's habitual. And that's just a drill until it's in you. And then you find yourself, doing it with your opponent. And that's Kihon, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. What's the other one we did? The other one we did the other day was the double leg takedown.
Yep.
So the drop to one knee,
the
penetration step, and then the stand up, and then the other side. We just did that up and down the dojo.
That is such a good example because that is a real problem for karateka. Because of course, when we throw a reverse punch, we drop the back hip, right?
The back knee,
extension. Whereas within a double leg, you drop the front knee to penetrate between the legs. If we'll add some videos to this, as we go through, so you can see what we're talking about. Right now, that's a classic example. How as when I went to grappling from karate, double leg, and I can hear you saying drop the front leg. I can see you. I understand. I'm not as stupid as I look. However,
the back knee keeps dropping.
Just keeps dropping. And you're right. That is a time where you're now just breaking brain patterns, aren't you? And that does take that ABC. So just drop. Yeah, that is a really good example of how you can use Kihon to break poor pattern or old patterns or non-useful
Yeah.
patterns. And then you use the Kihon until you don't need to use the Kihon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Again, we didn't spend long on it. I think we did it as the warm up, to be honest, because it's quite that kind of, it's essentially doing a lunge, aren't you? It's quite a nice warm up for the legs.
Yeah.
And it's pretty savage on the legs as well the next day.
It's really savage. I showed you that drill I do at the gym where I do every
Yeah.
bag. By
Yeah.
the end of that, I'm like, I go up and back. By the end of that, I've had enough. I've lost the will to live. I can't move my legs.
So yeah, we did that for the warm up, and then once we moved on to partner work, if anyone needed it, then we would do it on an individual basis. I wouldn't get the whole group to go in the line again. I'd say, well, if you're struggling with it, step away.
Yeah.
Do it without the partner.
Yeah.
And then go back to it.
And then you can have a kind of a titrated Kihon as well, can't you? Where you sort of have just the Kihon with just shapes, just you on your own, just the shapes. Then, as you say, with a partner, but with zero resistance, you literally just have a pair of legs to look at. Then you could turn the dial 2% resistance or whatever. And then until eventually you're doing a partner drill and then a resistant fight. And you could just keep leveling up, can't you?
Yeah.
So then the question then has to remain, so we're excluding the enlightenment side. Let's imagine that hasn't translated or people are not interested. Fine. We know Kihon has value as a tool that we can use. So then the question is, why do you think so many people can't let it go?
I don't know. Well, for me, the reason I kept it for so long, I guess, was just because everyone had it.
Yeah.
And then when I think, yeah, but the people who have it aren't doing the same thing as me. So why am I trying to keep that one thing that doesn't fit with the rest of the stuff we do? If I was doing the 3K stuff, if I was in a traditional JKA dojo and I said I want to drop Kihon, they'd shoot me, I'm sure. But I'm not a traditional JKA place, so there's no point in me doing that kind of Kihon. It doesn't fit with everything else.
Yeah.
Stepping
away from the crowd, though, and that's a real issue, right? I mean, all of us who've been at some sort of traditional place have had this challenge of reinventing yourself. Takes some courage. Breaking away can feel disloyal. You're then lost because you don't know what you're doing. That's quite hard, right?
100%. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for anyone who is thinking of messing around with their even that term messing around is pejorative, right? Who wants to adjust their syllabus and reinvent themselves and go for it? Any advice? Because I know you've done it. Any advice for people?
I would say go somewhere and just spend a little bit of time learning other things. Because one thing I found was when I changed the syllabus, I'm adding things in that I kind of know what I'm doing, but I've never really had it critiqued by people. Do you know what I mean? I've never had someone better than me at a certain thing go, "You're doing that wrong. That needs to change." So that's why when I went to train with a boxing gym for a while, you get picked up on things that you never would have been picked up on in your other place. Same with BJJ, doing certain takedowns where I would have done them that way before. You get picked up saying, no, don't do it like that. You need your hip here to get this leverage or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's a massive help. And I think that needs to be done. Otherwise, you end up half teaching stuff that you don't really know. And it might look like it works, but you don't really know the details of it, if that makes sense.
It does make very, very a lot of sense. I would say, though, that half knowledge, I know a lot of people might balk at this, right? But it's easier to edit a bad first draft of a book. I'm talking now from a writer's perspective. It's easier to edit a bad first draft than it is to edit an empty page, right? So I am not condoning people go out, start their stuff and teach half-assed stuff, right? Not condoning that at all. But if you're at that stage where you want to reinvent yourself and you don't feel you're good enough yet, go and do it anyway. Because you're only going to get good enough by trying it. Now, I would caveat that by saying I think it's good to be open and transparent with your students and say, listen, this is where I am. I've reached the pinnacle of where I am in my last world. I'm reinventing, but there's stuff I don't know. So there's every chance that what I'm going to teach you this week will be different next month. And if you're with me for the journey, right, then I think we'll all grow. I think honesty is, again, it's not about being a low level and lying, but at some point you do have to be the white belt at reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you wait until you're perfect, you just won't, you'll never get there, because that time never comes.
Yeah. That's one thing that Joe and I do when we're teaching our classes, is we always kind of make sure to say that, especially like on things like when we do stuff on the ground, it's like, we're doing jiu-jitsu, but we're by no means any good at it. No. So as we improve, the stuff we show you will change. Yeah. And if you want to really put some time into it, go to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because you should anyway, because it's good fun. But you know, we try and make that point a lot.
And I think some instructors are threatened by admitting to their students that, you know, what we're teaching you at the moment is substandard, but it's a standard above what you've got because you've got nothing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people, and I don't, my experience has been that students are not put off by that, but actually strengthened by a teacher that says, I don't know it all, but I'm trying to learn. Come on the journey with me. And I can't even think of any that have moved away through my admission of not knowing stuff. And you know, and now later I've got to a relatively decent level in grappling and striking. So now we go, okay, you stuck with me, and it's all paid off because we've been in it, and now we are the sort of, not the experts, but you know what I mean. Now we have a decent level of knowledge. I would encourage people to do that. Try it. I mean, you know, going to get all people starting their own schools now, and we're going to get all these messages going, oh, you go away. Don't leave that comment, or you can. I won't be reading it. But yeah, I do think it's better to. But the key is honesty. The key is just be really transparent and upfront.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Kihon, then, anything else to add?
Kihon, what's left to add? Well, I suppose you asked me what advice I would give to people. What would you give to people who are struggling to move away from Kihon?
Same thing. I would again look at why you're stuck in an old tradition. Often we're stuck in an old tradition, old ways, because we forgot to think for ourselves, right? So step back and go, am I just copying someone else's ideal? And if I am, and it works for me, cool, happy days. But if you're copying because you've stopped, A, thinking for yourself, or B, too frightened to upset anyone, then step back away from that. And then I would suggest what you do. This is what I did. I went and looked at other stuff. I went out of the dojo I grew up in to see if there was a world outside of it, to see if all the people my instructors said were rubbish and didn't know what they were doing, if it was true, if the boxers were idiots, you know, if the BJJ guys would get sorted by a knee in the head, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I found out, I think I might be the idiot, the protected idiot.
Yeah.
And you're right. And then I went to seminars and all this sort of stuff until you end up going, wow. And beyond that as well, it's just a whole lot of fun learning from other people. You meet amazing people. There's some stuff you don't really like, but often just that openness. My martial arts burst open in my heart when I stopped being a one-place man. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I mean, that's when my whole evolution came, when we went towards the MMA and then the jiu-jitsu and all that sort of stuff. And I, at no time have I loved my martial arts more than right now. And it's such a hybrid of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty good, to be fair. So I don't regret a single second. The people I meet, the things I do have just come, just as you say, just get out and try and test. That's what I think.
Yeah. Test. That's the word.
If you can be a school, though, where they can do that testing, then even better. They don't have to go
Yeah.
and find it. But I'm talking about people who haven't got that. So you're going to have to go out and find those things for yourself. And then you'll come back and you can be that provider to your own students of all the different experiences. And isn't that what life's about, actually? Ultimately, it's about trying as many different experiences as possible. And just kind of, for me, I still think martial arts is just a metaphor for life. And so if you go out and try and play some stuff you'll like, some stuff you won't, but honestly, you'll have a much richer life for it, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so let's summarize. So Kihon, we put it a little bit in cultural context that it probably was a vehicle for enlightenment if we use it traditionally, and we realized that probably is not going to export very well. So fine, we'll leave that. I do still love that idea, and I do still.
Like I said, I've never thought of it like that. I like that.
Yeah.
The idea of just the mental toughness to get through it, to break through the boredom.
It really
like
is.
that.
It is very much a spiritual thing. On the Buddhist Millennium podcast, my podcast, I interview Akemi actually, and I think she talks about that story. It's very, very interesting. It's like, wow. And she's, and I say, I do like that. That's why I got into martial arts, but I completely understand the majority of our listenership are like, no way, weird freak, which that's cool. You're probably right. You're probably right.
You've reminded me of a story in Funakoshi's biography or autobiography, one of them. I can't remember if he wrote it or someone else wrote it. But anyway, he was saying about when he was first learning this kata, he would do it over and over and over again in front of his teacher with his lantern out in the garden while his teacher was sat on a step smoking a pipe or whatever. And he would go, no, do it again. No, do it again. No, do it again. For years. And a lot of like me included, the applied, quote unquote, applied karate world go, well, obviously he wasn't talking about the solo kata. He was talking about the applications. And I'm like, after thinking about that, I'm like, no, he probably wasn't actually. It was probably literally just him doing the pattern.
Throwing your calligrapher at the wall.
And over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is to understand Do. That is to properly understand the tea ceremony. That is to understand all the things which you're like, why is this taking 8 days? I've got it. No, you missed it. And that hasn't made it here. For some it has. I'm sure for some it has. But mostly for the people who get it, they have been around Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So then we move from there into Kihon as a teaching aid. Just summarize that for us, Greg, the teaching aid part of it.
The teaching aid, essentially, you use it when needed. Don't kind of have your set classes like you might have done before, where you come in, you go, right, today we're going to do 45 minutes of Kihon, 15 minutes of kata, and then 20 minutes of kumite or whatever. Kihon is used when you need a problem fixing. That's the way I use it anyway.
That's a great, I like that description.
What's the tape? What's that tape called that you see on line sometimes, the advert, where it fixes everything? You've got a leak, you put this tape over it.
Yeah, like a gorilla tape, isn't it?
Something like that. Yeah, that's what it is. It's like that for martial arts. You have a problem that you can't quite fix when you're being punched in the face, then go up and down in a line for a bit.
Yeah, I like it because it takes away the obstacles to learning, which is usually nerves. So you strip everything back, just remove everything. So it's just the person and their shape on their own. Cool.
Yeah.
But then it's important to reintegrate the lesson. It all has to be reintegrated. So enlightenment out the window, stripping it down as a tool. What else to summarize Kihon, do you think, man?
I suppose the advice for other people was good. Just get out there and look at other places. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
So now, of course, we don't particularly want to be speaking into a void. We both are passionate about martial arts. I hope that comes across. If it doesn't, then better wake up earlier.
Sometimes I do worry that it comes across like I hate martial arts.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that sucks.
But we'd love your feedback, actually.
what you think about Kihon. And when we're doing this for us all to kind of share these ideas and things. So please mention or give us your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, as ever, if you like what you hear, I am going to ask you to buy me and Greg a coffee at my Buy Me a Coffee page. I'll leave that in the link, because here's the thing about this, right? About podcasts in general. I am a big believer in two-way relationships, right? We give something comes back. Now, you can't insist on that. I get it. And everyone has the right to go, no, your stuff sucks, I ain't paying it. Fine. But I do believe, and where possible, I try and do the same thing. So if you like what you hear, buy us a coffee. We're not asking for some kind of ongoing membership fee, but just some appreciation for the effort. I had to get him out of bed, and I had to finish writing.
You did.
So there's some degree of effort. Anyway, that's that. And please take a moment to like, share, comment, all the stuff. You got anything to add, mate?
No, I don't think so. I think you've said everything that needs to be said there.
So we've got at some point we'll get on to Kumite, right?
Yeah. Or have we done Kumite before?
Can't remember. But we'll have a look at what we haven't done.
We'll keep doing these. I like these.
I like the evolving martial artists.
Yeah.
They're fun. So yeah, we hope you guys like it out there listening, like it as well. And we will see you next time on the evolving martial artists. Lots of love.
Yes,
oh, that's not cool. That's my Buddhist millionaire line. Lots of love. Stay tough. Us.
There you go. That's it. Perfect. Stay tough, us.